The engineer believed he was assisting a warrior, but she was a Galactic Empress. Kale Vey had never expected his life to change in a single morning, but today proved him wrong. He was sitting in his cramped apartment on Orbital Station 7, tinkering with a small propulsion device, when an official holo message blinked into existence before him. The emblem of the Interstellar Council flashed across the room, casting a soft blue glow. Kale straightened, wiping grease off his hands. "Engineer Kale Vey?" a calm, authoritative voice asked from the holo. "Your skills are required for a confidential project. You will report immediately to Docking Bay Delta. Transportation will be provided." Kale's stomach fluttered. Confidential projects were rare. Most requests he received were minor repairs on cargo ships or tweaking mining drones to run a bit faster. This felt different, something important. He grabbed his tools, shoved them into his bag, and rushed toward the docking bay. As he moved through the station's bustling corridors, he felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had worked hard for years, inventing devices and improving starship systems, but this felt like stepping into a storybook adventure. Maybe he was finally going to do something that mattered. When he arrived at Docking Bay Delta, a sleek, silver shuttle waited. Its design was elegant yet functional, with smooth curves and subtle lights glowing along the hull. A uniformed officer stood by the door. "Engineer Vey," she said, "please step aboard. You are to meet Commander Lyra Talon." Kale's heart skipped a beat. Commander. He had heard stories about her. She was rumored to be one of the galaxy's finest warriors. Stories claimed she had single-handedly won missions against pirate fleets and navigated deadly asteroid fields with skill no one could match. To Kale, she was like a legend come to life. As he stepped inside the shuttle, the doors sealed behind him with a soft hiss. The interior was minimalistic but efficient. A few screens displayed star maps, energy readings, and a countdown for departure. Kale took a deep breath and tried to steady himself. "I can do this," he whispered under his breath. "Just another project." The shuttle lifted off, gliding smoothly out of the station into open space. Kale pressed himself against the seat, looking out at the stars streaking past. The vastness of space always amazed him, the endless points of light, each with its own story, planets, and civilizations. But today he had a new focus: Lyra Talon. The shuttle landed on a planet he had never seen before, Seraphine IV, a neutral world used for training and testing elite personnel. The surface was covered in wide plains and towering crystal formations that refracted the sunlight into rainbows. Kale stepped out and felt the soft ground under his feet, a slight breeze carrying the scent of alien flora. Everything seemed both beautiful and dangerous. A figure approached him, moving with confidence and purpose. She was tall, with silver hair pulled back in a braid, and her eyes seemed to shine with intelligence. She wore a sleek suit that hinted at agility and strength. Kale felt his mouth go dry. "You must be Kale Vey," she said. Her voice was calm, almost musical. "I've heard about your work. Your devices are impressive," Kale stammered. "I thank you. I'm honored to work with you, Commander Talon." Lyra gave a small smile. "Please call me Lyra. Titles are less important out here. You're here to assist me in enhancing certain capabilities." She paused, studying him for a moment. "I assume you are ready to begin immediately?" Kale nodded eagerly. "Absolutely. I've been waiting for something like this my whole career." She gestured toward a nearby structure that resembled a large hangar. Inside, Kale saw what he expected: a set of advanced training equipment, obstacle courses, and simulation platforms. But something was different. These weren't just for combat. He noticed stations for diplomatic simulations, holographic negotiation tables, and tactical strategy interfaces. "Where do we start?" Kale asked, his eyes widening. Lyra's smile widened ever so slightly. "We begin with the basics: observation and understanding. I want you to see how I work first. Only then will you know what enhancements are necessary." Kale nodded, though a little confused. He had expected to start immediately with mechanical adjustments, weapon calibrations, or performance upgrades. Observation sounded passive. For the next few hours, Kale followed Lyra through training exercises. She moved with the grace of someone who had faced countless challenges, yet he noticed something unusual. She often paused during drills, analyzing holographic simulations of disputes between alien civilizations. She wasn't focused on defeating enemies. She was looking for solutions that avoided conflict. Kale frowned. I thought this was about combat training, he muttered quietly to himself. One of the instructors, noticing Kale's confusion, explained. Commander Talon is unique. She doesn't just fight. She resolves problems before they become fights. Her skill isn't measured by how many battles she wins, but by how many she prevents. Kale blinked. Prevents? That wasn't what he expected. A warrior who prevented conflict. He scratched his head, trying to wrap his mind around the idea. The next exercise involved a simulated starship attack. Kale was assigned to modify Lyra's systems in real time to enhance reaction speed, navigational control, and environmental analysis. As the simulation began, Lyra's actions were precise, calculated, almost elegant. She didn't just dodge attacks, she anticipated them, guiding her ship to positions that minimized risk for everyone involved. Kale watched in awe, adjusting systems as instructed. She's incredible, he whispered. His fingers flew across the console, rerouting energy, stabilizing shields, and fine-tuning sensors. Every adjustment he made seemed to amplify her already remarkable skill. After the simulation, Lyra approached him. You're talented, Kale. Your inventions respond to subtle inputs I didn't even program for. That's rare. Kale's face turned red. I thank you, but I'm just following your lead. You're the one making all the decisions. Lyra's eyes glinted with curiosity. Leadership is sometimes about creating space for others to excel. You've done more than you realize today. As the day ended, Kale walked alone outside, staring at the crystal formations glinting in the fading sunlight. He felt a mix of excitement and confusion. He had thought he was assisting a warrior in battle, but now he wasn't sure what kind of missions they would face. And Lyra, she was unlike anyone he had ever met. The next morning, Kale returned to the hangar to find Lyra already waiting. We have a new task, she said. A negotiation exercise with representatives from 2 planets on the brink of war. You will assist me. This will be your first real challenge. Kale's heart raced. Negotiations? He had expected combat simulations, but he nodded. I'm ready. Lyra handed him a portable console. Your devices will help me analyze data, project outcomes, and respond to complex variables. But remember, this isn't just about efficiency. You need to understand why decisions matter. As they entered the simulation chamber, Kale realized something. This was bigger than anything he had imagined. It wasn't just about building better machines. It was about understanding a mind that could shape worlds. The simulation began. Holographic delegates appeared before them, tense and wary. Kale's fingers flew over the controls, sending projections, assessing possible reactions, and calculating outcomes. Lyra stepped forward, calm and composed, speaking in measured tones. She didn't raise her voice, didn't threaten, didn't intimidate. Yet within moments the room shifted. The delegates listened, they questioned. They began to cooperate. Kale's jaw dropped. He had never seen anything like this. He had expected a warrior, someone who would rely on strength and skill. Instead, he witnessed someone using intellect, empathy, and insight to achieve victory. At the end of the exercise, Lyra turned to him. You see, Kale, this is the work of a true leader. Not all victories are fought with weapons. Some are won with understanding. Kale nodded slowly, absorbing the lesson. His heart was full of awe, and a quiet excitement stirred within him. He realized that he wasn't just assisting a warrior. He was standing beside someone extraordinary, someone who could change the fate of the galaxy without ever firing a shot. As the sun set over the crystal plains of Seraphine IV, Kale felt a spark of purpose ignite within him. This was only the beginning. The real adventure was just about to begin. Kale woke early the next day, the memory of yesterday's lessons still vivid in his mind. The crystal plains of Seraphine IV glimmered in the morning light outside his small quarters. He had barely slept. His mind raced with thoughts of Lyra Talon. She was a warrior, yes, but something about her felt different. Every decision she made, every movement, seemed calculated for more than combat. He dressed quickly and headed toward the hangar, his portable console slung over his shoulder. Today was not just a simulation. He had been told they were departing the planet for a real assignment. He didn't know the details, only that it involved a diplomatic mission on a distant world called Vierlia. When Kale arrived at the hangar, Lyra was already there, reviewing a holomap of the star systems they would traverse. Her eyes moved with precision, scanning planets, routes, and potential hazards. She noticed Kale immediately. Good morning, Kale. I hope you are ready. Today we'll test your skills in ways the simulations did not. Kale swallowed nervously. I'm ready, Lyra nodded. Good. Board the shuttle, we depart in 5 minutes. The shuttle ride to Violia was quiet. Kale kept sneaking glances at Lyra as she reviewed data streams and communicated with distant contacts through encrypted channels. She was calm, focused, and completely in control. Kale felt a strange mixture of admiration and anxiety. How could one person manage so many things at once? Upon arriving in orbit around Violia, they were greeted by a fleet of ships from 2 different factions. The tension was palpable. Kale could feel it through the console, even before seeing the delegates. Lyra guided the shuttle down to a neutral landing zone, her movements precise and deliberate. Inside the conference chamber, representatives from the 2 factions waited. They were not hostile yet, but the air was thick with suspicion. Kale's heart raced. This was his first real diplomatic encounter. He had no idea how his engineering skills could help here. Lyra gestured to him. Kale, your role is to manage the data. Track communications, predict reactions, and provide options. Observe, understand. Your calculations will support my decisions. Kale nodded, taking a deep breath. He activated his console and streams of information appeared. Environmental readings, historical conflict data, communication patterns, even subtle changes in body language. His eyes widened. This was more complex than any battle simulation he had ever faced. The session began. The first representative, a tall figure in golden robes, spoke aggressively, demanding more resources from the neighboring planet. Kale watched Lyra carefully. She did not react immediately. Instead, she studied the representative, noting the tone, body language, and potential hidden intentions. Kale, she whispered, project a scenario where both sides gain equally from a shared agreement. Highlight long-term benefits rather than immediate gains. Kale's fingers flew over the controls. Holographic projections appeared, showing trade routes, population growth, and resource distribution over decades. The room grew silent as the delegates studied the projections. Kale could feel their surprise, even hesitation. Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm and steady. There is a solution that benefits both of you. If resources are shared equally, both civilizations can expand trade, improve living conditions, and avoid future conflict. Kale watched in awe. The representatives leaned forward, exchanging glances. Kale noticed subtle nods and expressions of consideration. Lyra had not raised her voice, threatened, or used force. She had simply presented a path that made sense for everyone. Hours passed. Kale's mind raced, analyzing each reaction, calculating outcomes, and adjusting projections in real time. Lyra moved through the chamber like a conductor, guiding the conversation with precision. Every word she spoke influenced not just the current negotiation but potential future relations across the galaxy. By the end of the session, the delegates had reached a preliminary agreement. Kale could hardly believe it. He had expected a battle, tension, maybe even failure. Instead, they had achieved a peaceful resolution, with Lyra as the guiding force. After the session, Kale and Lyra stepped outside to a balcony overlooking Violia's crystalline cities. The sun reflected off the buildings, creating a dazzling array of lights. Kale turned to Lyra, still trying to process what had just happened. I thought you were a warrior, he said quietly. But this is something else. You didn't fight, you didn't threaten anyone, and yet you won. Lyra smiled, a faint glimmer in her eyes. Winning isn't always about fighting, Kale. Sometimes the greatest victories are those that prevent conflict entirely. Understanding others, seeing the bigger picture, that is true strength. Kale nodded slowly, feeling both humbled and inspired. He realized that his role was more important than he had imagined. His inventions, his calculations, his ability to anticipate reactions, all of it mattered in a way he had never considered. He wasn't just enhancing a warrior, he was contributing to a vision that could reshape entire worlds. The next day, they traveled to a remote sector known for its complex trade networks. Lyra explained the mission. A critical supply chain had broken down, threatening multiple planets with shortages of essential resources. Kale's expertise would be crucial in resolving the problem efficiently and peacefully. As they approached the sector, Kale marveled at the interconnected networks of starships, space stations, and orbital platforms. Every ship, every station was a node in a vast system that ensured goods reached their destinations. Any disruption could create panic, unrest, or even famine. Lyra turned to Kale. Your task is to stabilize these networks, analyze the data, predict bottlenecks, and optimize delivery routes. But remember, these are not just numbers. Each shipment affects lives. Treat them with care. Kale worked tirelessly, inputting data, monitoring flows, and simulating various scenarios. He coordinated with Lyra, who guided negotiations with trade leaders and local authorities. The two of them worked seamlessly, his technical mind complementing her strategic brilliance. Hours turned into days. Kale rarely slept, his mind consumed with calculations, projections, and contingency plans, yet he felt exhilarated. For the first time, he understood that engineering could change lives, and that working with Lyra meant contributing to something far greater than any machine or invention. One evening, as they reviewed progress from a shuttle overlooking the sector, Kale noticed something unusual. Lyra was speaking with several distant contacts, coordinating efforts across multiple star systems simultaneously. Her authority and influence were undeniable. Yet she remained calm, focused, and thoughtful. Kale felt a sudden realization. Lyra's skill went beyond being a warrior or even a commander. She was a leader on a scale he had never imagined. She wasn't just fighting battles, she was shaping the future of civilizations. He turned to her, unsure how to ask the question. "Lyra, are you more than just a commander?" She paused, looking out at the stars. "I suppose you could say that," she said carefully. "Some call me many things, but titles are not important here. What matters is the work we do, the choices we make, and the lives we touch." Kale felt a shiver run down his spine. This was bigger than he had ever imagined. All along, he had thought he was assisting a warrior in battle. Now he realized he was part of something far larger, a mission that could influence entire worlds, even the galaxy itself. Over the next few days, Kale continued to work closely with Lyra. They resolved disputes, optimized supply chains, and coordinated diplomatic negotiations across multiple star systems. Each success reinforced his admiration and respect for her. Yet a question lingered in Kale's mind. How had one person achieved so much? How could someone command such influence, remain so calm under pressure, and think so far ahead? The answer began to take shape as Kale observed Lyra's methods. She listened more than she spoke. She studied patterns, anticipated reactions, and used logic and empathy in equal measure. Every action had a purpose, every decision considered the long-term consequences. Kale began to understand that true leadership was not about force or intimidation. It was about vision, understanding, and the ability to inspire others to follow willingly. Lyra embodied all of these qualities. One evening, after successfully negotiating a critical trade agreement between two star systems, Kale and Lyra sat together in the shuttle, looking out at the endless expanse of stars. "You've taught me more than I ever imagined," Kale said quietly. "I thought I was here to help a warrior, but you're something else entirely." Lyra smiled, placing a hand briefly on his shoulder. "And you, Kale, have shown me that human ingenuity can change the course of events in ways I could not accomplish alone. Together, we are stronger." Kale felt a surge of pride and purpose. He realized that his role was not just about building machines or improving systems. He was part of a team that could make a real difference in the galaxy, a team led by a person whose vision and skill were beyond anything he had imagined. As the shuttle glided through space, Kale stared out at the stars, feeling a sense of excitement and wonder he had never known before. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and mysteries, but with Lyra and with his own skills, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The adventure was far from over. In fact, Kale realized it was only beginning. Kale had begun to understand that Lyra Talon was unlike anyone he had ever met. Her skill, her calm presence, and her ability to resolve disputes without force had already impressed him. But he had no idea just how far her influence extended, until today. They were aboard the shuttle again, leaving Violia. The morning sun glinted off the metallic surface of their craft as it cruised through space. Kale was reviewing his notes on the negotiations, still trying to comprehend the complexity of what they had achieved. Lyra sat across from him, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She looked calm, almost serene, as if the countless stars and planets passing by held no surprises for her. But Kale sensed a weight in her presence, a quiet authority that went far beyond her role as a commander. "Lyra," Kale began hesitantly, "you handle every situation flawlessly, but sometimes I feel like there's more going on than I understand. You know things, contacts, plans, strategies, so much more than any commander should. Lyra's eyes softened. You are perceptive, Kale. That is why I brought you here, but there are truths you are not yet ready to see. One day you will understand everything. Kale frowned. What do you mean? Is there something you're not telling me? She shook her head lightly. Patience. The galaxy is larger than any one person, and understanding takes time. Kale wanted answers, but he knew better than to push. Lyra always had reasons. Instead, he returned to his calculations, observing her as she reviewed maps, communications, and holographic projections. Hours later, the shuttle received a secure transmission from the Interstellar Council. Lyra's demeanor shifted slightly, her calm focus intensifying. The Council spoke with respect, deference, even a hint of fear. Kale's brow furrowed. The Council never treated anyone with such deference. Kale, Lyra said quietly, what you see here is the scale of responsibility I carry. It is not simply about negotiation or strategy. Sometimes it requires authority that few understand. Kale's mind raced. Authority. She was respected by the Council, but how much authority? The shuttle approached the planet of Urindor, a neutral world that served as a hub for interstellar diplomacy. Lyra guided them to a secure landing zone, her movements precise and confident. As they disembarked, Kale noticed that the reception was unlike any he had ever experienced. Urindor's officials bowed deeply as Lyra walked past. Her name was spoken with reverence. Delegates approached her to discuss matters, and she listened, smiled, and guided the conversation with ease. Kale felt a strange chill run through him. He had assumed she was a skilled leader, but this was something else entirely. During the meeting, a high-ranking official approached them. Your Excellency, the official said to Lyra. Kale's eyes widened. Excellency? Lyra's calm expression did not change. She addressed the room with authority and wisdom, and Kale slowly realized the truth. She was not merely a warrior or a commander. She was a leader whose influence stretched across star systems, a ruler whose decisions affected the lives of billions. After the meeting, Kale struggled to process what he had witnessed. Lyra, are you the Empress? He asked quietly. Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable for a moment, then nodded. Yes, Kale, I am Empress of the Galactic Federation, but titles mean little here. What matters is the work we do, the lives we protect, the peace we maintain. Kale felt his knees weaken slightly. All this time he had believed he was assisting a warrior in battle. Instead, he had been assisting an empress, the leader of a vast interstellar civilization. The weight of it hit him in waves, awe, pride, and a touch of fear. You never told me, he said, shaking his head. Why let me think I was just helping a commander? Lyra's eyes softened. Because your contributions mattered regardless of my title. I needed you to focus on your work without being intimidated by my position. You have talents that cannot be measured by fear or expectation. They must be trusted and allowed to grow freely. Kale took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. So everything I've done, the simulations, the negotiations, the supply chains, you were trusting me with this, with all of it. Lyra smiled faintly. Exactly. You have been instrumental in shaping outcomes that affect entire civilizations. Your inventions, your insight, your calculations, they have amplified my ability to lead effectively. Without you, much of what we have achieved would have been impossible. Kale's chest swelled with pride, mixed with disbelief. He had never imagined that his skills could matter on such a scale. For years, he had tinkered in his small workshop, dreaming of challenges, and now he was part of something that shaped the galaxy itself. That evening, they walked across Urindor's observation terraces, overlooking sprawling cities illuminated by alien lights. Kale struggled to find the right words. I don't know what to say. This is more than I ever imagined. I thought I was helping a warrior, and I've been helping an empress. Lyra stopped and looked at him, her eyes calm and encouraging. You did not simply assist me, Kale. You helped countless lives, shaped decisions that prevented conflicts, and ensured the survival of many worlds. That is not a small thing. That is true impact. Kale nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words. He realized that true heroism did not always come from combat or glory. It came from understanding, problem-solving, and using one's skills to protect and improve the lives of others. The next day, they faced another challenge. A remote star system had reported strange fluctuations in its energy grids, threatening to disrupt communication and transport networks. Lyra's team required immediate intervention, and Kale's expertise was crucial in stabilizing the system. As they worked, Kale noticed how seamlessly Lyra coordinated efforts. Her vision extended beyond the immediate problem. She anticipated consequences, guided her team, and made decisions that balanced technical precision with the well-being of all involved. Kale adjusted energy flows, rerouted power lines, and recalibrated sensors. Lyra coordinated with planetary authorities, ensuring that every move minimized disruption. They worked side by side, each complementing the other's strengths. By the time the crisis was resolved, Kale had a new understanding of leadership. It was not about commanding attention or instilling fear. It was about seeing the larger picture, understanding systems, and guiding others to achieve outcomes that benefited everyone. Later, as they rested aboard their shuttle, Kale turned to Lyra. "I can see now why you're Empress. You don't just lead, you inspire. You don't just fight, you prevent battles. And you trust people like me to help." Lyra's expression softened. "And you have not disappointed. Your ingenuity, patience, and insight have been invaluable. Remember, Kale, an empire is only as strong as those who work within it. You are part of that strength." Kale smiled, feeling a sense of purpose he had never known. For the first time in his life, he understood that his work mattered, not just in his lab but across entire star systems. He had begun as an engineer assisting a warrior. Now, he was an engineer assisting an empress, shaping the course of civilizations. As the stars streaked past the shuttle windows, Kale felt both awe and determination. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and mysteries, but he had found his place. He would continue to learn, contribute, and rise to meet every obstacle alongside Lyra. The revelation of her true identity changed everything. Kale realized that the adventures, lessons, and simulations of the past weeks were only the beginning. With Lyra's guidance and his own growing abilities, he was ready to face the galaxy's greatest challenges. And somewhere deep inside, Kale felt a quiet thrill. The real journey had just begun. Kale Vey had begun to understand the immense scope of Lyra Talen's leadership, but nothing prepared him for what came next. A high-priority alert blinked across their shuttle's console as they traveled between star systems. The Interstellar Council had detected a critical failure in the galaxy's central supply network. Food, water, and essential resources were at risk of not reaching dozens of star systems. Panic was beginning to spread among planetary leaders. Lyra's voice was calm, but Kale could feel the tension in her subtle gestures. "This is the first time we'll test your full engineering capabilities under real stakes," she said, her eyes fixed on the holographic projections. "The network is failing, but with proper adjustments it can be stabilized. Kale, your role is central. We need to restore balance before panic escalates." Kale swallowed hard. The stakes were unlike anything he had imagined. He was no longer working on simulations or single missions. This was real. Entire civilizations could suffer if he and Lyra failed. They arrived at the central hub, a massive orbital station suspended above a gas giant. It pulsed with energy, distributing power and coordinating resources across hundreds of planets. Kale's heart pounded as he looked at the station's control panels. The system was far more complex than anything he had ever worked on. Lyra led him to the central console. "Kale, I'll coordinate diplomacy and communication with the affected worlds. You stabilize the network itself. Think of this as a living organism. Every adjustment affects the whole. We cannot act hastily." Kale nodded, trying to steady his nerves. "Understood, I'll do everything I can." The first hours were chaotic. Alerts blinked red as resource flows faltered, planetary systems reported shortages, and automated systems began to fail. Kale's mind raced, analyzing energy matrices, routing data, and calculating supply projections. Every decision he made had consequences across the galaxy. He started with the energy flows. By rerouting power through auxiliary channels, he was able to stabilize critical nodes. Then he recalibrated delivery schedules, ensuring that high-priority planets received essential supplies first. Lyra communicated with planetary leaders, explaining the delays and keeping panic at bay. "Kale," she said, leaning over his shoulder, "project the impact of alternative routes through the Malara system. There is a risk of congestion, but it may relieve pressure on other sectors." Kale quickly adjusted the simulations. Holographic lines lit up, showing the new paths. He saw potential bottlenecks forming, but also noticed opportunities to optimize timing. With careful adjustments, the network could carry more resources safely and efficiently. Hours turned into a full rotation of the gas giant. Kale's eyes burned from staring at the console, but he could not stop. Each adjustment he made seemed to trigger new challenges. Some planets had conflicting demands, others had unexpected weather disturbances affecting resource delivery. Lyra coordinated responses calmly, prioritizing needs and resolving conflicts before they escalated. At one point, a sudden spike in energy consumption threatened to overload a distribution node. Kale's fingers flew across the console, rerouting circuits and stabilizing the flow. Sweat trickled down his temple, but he refused to stop. One mistake could have cascading effects across entire star systems. Lyra noticed the strain on him. Kale, take a brief pause. You cannot maintain this pace indefinitely. I trust you, but exhaustion leads to mistakes. Kale shook his head. No, I can handle it. We can't let these worlds suffer. Lyra smiled faintly. Good, but remember, even the sharpest mind benefits from a clear perspective. She handed him a cup of nutrient-rich beverage. Drink this, keep your energy steady. Kale nodded, sipping the warm liquid while monitoring the holographic projections. As he worked, he began to notice patterns. Certain supply routes consistently failed under stress, while others remained stable. He started implementing redundancy systems, ensuring that if one route failed, another could automatically compensate. Hours passed, and slowly the crisis began to ease. Resource flows stabilized, shortages decreased, and planetary leaders reported improvements. Kale felt a wave of relief but knew the job was not over. Lyra walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. You're doing exceptionally well, Kale. The network is stabilizing faster than anticipated, but the true test is coordination. We must ensure that the solution is sustainable. Kale nodded, realizing she was right. Stabilizing the immediate crisis was only part of the solution. They needed a long-term plan to prevent future collapses. Using his knowledge of systems engineering, Kale began designing an automated network of feedback loops. These loops would monitor supply and demand, predict potential disruptions, and adjust flows in real time. Lyra guided him through the priorities, advising on how decisions would affect populations, political tensions, and interstellar trade. Kale marveled at her foresight. She considered consequences he had never imagined, balancing efficiency with ethics and human welfare. By the next rotation, the immediate crisis was resolved. Planetary leaders expressed their gratitude, and the Interstellar Council sent a message of commendation. Kale felt exhausted but proud. His work had made a real difference. Lyra turned to him, her expression serious. Kale, what you have done today is extraordinary. You stabilized a network that affects billions. You have not only saved resources, you have preserved lives, prevented conflicts, and maintained trust across civilizations. Kale felt a lump in his throat. He had never thought of engineering in such terms. He had always seen machines, calculations, and circuits. Today, he saw the human impact of every decision, every adjustment, and every innovation. That's incredible, he whispered. I never imagined my work could matter on this scale. Lyra smiled. That is the strength of humanity, Kale. Your ingenuity, creativity, and dedication are proof of what humans can achieve. Even a single mind, working thoughtfully and with purpose, can influence the course of entire civilizations. Kale felt a sense of pride that went deeper than any recognition. He realized that being human was not about physical strength or combat skill. It was about innovation, adaptability, empathy, and the ability to solve problems no one else could. Today, he had seen the galaxy respond to human ingenuity. After the crisis, Lyra and Kale returned to the shuttle. As they traveled through the stars, Kale reflected on the experience. He had begun this journey thinking he was assisting a warrior in combat. Instead, he had been part of a team that engineered peace, stability, and hope across the galaxy. Lyra watched him quietly, noticing the change in his demeanor. He was no longer just an engineer. He was a partner, a contributor to something far greater than he had imagined. Kale, she said softly, your work today shows that true power lies not in weapons or battles, but in understanding, creating, and guiding. You have been a key part of that power. Kale smiled, feeling a warmth of purpose he had never known. He had begun as a simple engineer, but now he understood his potential. His skills, his creativity, and his determination had a place in the galaxy, not just in the lab, but in shaping the lives of billions. As the shuttle glided past a field of glowing nebulae, Kale realized something profound. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and mysteries, but he had found his calling. With Lyra as a guide and partner, he could face any obstacle. Together, they could build solutions that went beyond survival, beyond power, beyond fear. They could create hope. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting the shimmering lights of distant stars. "This is only the beginning, Kale. Today we stabilized a network. Tomorrow, who knows what challenges await, but I am certain of one thing. With minds like yours, humanity will continue to shine." Kale nodded, feeling a surge of determination. He was ready. Ready to face the galaxy's greatest challenges, ready to apply his knowledge, and ready to be more than he ever thought possible. The stars stretched out before them, endless and brilliant. Kale understood now that human ingenuity, when guided by vision and empathy, was more powerful than any weapon. He had witnessed it firsthand, and he knew that together with Lyra, they could accomplish anything. The galaxy was vast, but Kale felt confident. He was no longer just an engineer tinkering with machines. He was a creator of solutions, a guardian of systems, and a witness to the power of humanity at its best. As they sped toward the next challenge, Kale realized the adventure was far from over. The stakes would grow higher, the challenges more complex, but he had already learned the greatest lesson of all. Human minds, when used wisely, could shape the fate of worlds. And with Lyra Talon by his side, Kale knew they were unstoppable.